Hey, I'm Jenna from Wordable, and in this video, I'm going to show you the content brief strategy that we use to produce over 300 articles per month across dozens of writers at our sister agency, Codeless. First of all, you might be wondering, do you need a content brief for each piece of writing? Technically, you don't need to, but it really helps. Here are two critical points to help set the stage on why you need content briefs for each piece, and this is helpfully explained by our friend Andy Crestodina over at Orbit Media Studios in this blogging trends survey. What used to work back in the good old days no longer does. The people that report the best content marketing successes today are also doing the things that others don't like to. They're spending more time per post, writing longer, publishing more frequently, using more mixed media like illustrations and videos, and they're incorporating influencers. The second reason is because Google is getting much better at inferring intent. That's a fancy way of saying that they can basically read your mind. They know what you actually want to see when you type something, even if you weren't super clear about it. For example, engineer salaries could refer to civil, industrial, electrical, or software engineers, but based on your past browsing history and patterns of search, they already know exactly which one you mean, and they can tailor the results to answer you more effectively. Google now looks for pages that cover a topic best. All this happens in the background without you really knowing. This evolution of search means that the best content today should follow a familiar pattern if it's going to have any chance of ranking. You actually want your content to at least follow themes across the best stuff that's already ranking in terms of overall article structure, topics being mentioned, questions being answered, and more things like that. So there's a fine line. This sort of competitive benchmarking can lead to a bunch of watered down copycatting where everything kind of looks and sounds exactly the same, but it doesn't have to. The trick to doing this well is through 1. Hiring better writers, because average writers often will just rephrase whatever's already out there ranking. Great writers will stand way outside all the other generic stuff that you're going to read on that same topic. And number 2, you need to write better content briefs, because they allow you to make sure that whatever content creator you do use can stay in the lines enough to rank well, but still have enough freedom to express themselves and make pieces stand out. And that's ultimately why content briefs aren't just nice to have anymore, they're absolutely essential, and they're the best way to future-proof potential content failure. This not just results in higher quality across the board, but also makes sure your content investment won't be wasted. So that brings us to the next question: what should be included in a content brief? First, you need to think through this from a high-level perspective. What information will searchers actually want to find when they search for any particular query? Take an example like what is compound interest, which could go in a million different directions, and start by looking at what questions are hiding in plain sight. Just this very basic level of effort is usually enough for moderately difficult keywords. You can get a little more sophisticated with content optimization tools like MarketMuse. Open up the MarketMuse question app, drop in your target keyword, and watch more examples show up onto your screen. Going back to Google SERP examples, you can also use search suggestions, like when you start searching for something and Google will try to answer it in real time. The more specific your keyword, the more accurately the suggestions will be. And last but not least, scroll all the way down until you see related searches towards the bottom of the page. Remember, you don't want writers to write like robots, so part of this content brief process is to create unique article templates that will help writers naturally flow from one section to another while still delivering a thorough, comprehensive piece of content. So here's an example of how you could use those color-coded groupings we see here to break down into article subheadings for a how to make iced coffee blog post. Orange would be how to make fast, easy, instant iced coffee in less than 60 seconds. Green is the budget-friendly way to make Starbucks-worthy coffee at home with your Keurig. Pink is how to make iced coffee on the go without ice or a blender. Semantic keywords are really just an extension of these questions. They're the subtopics that should appear under each section. When planning new content, I like to use the MarketMuse Compete tab to get a feel for the best content currently ranking and any potential structure or gaps the competition might be missing. Here's what I mean. I could quickly open and read through the best content by sorting through the ones with the highest content score. These are not necessarily the best ranking, because that could be because of other factors outside of content's control, like site authority, brand, offsite SEO strength, number of referring domains to that page, and so on. But I'm also seeing some big content gaps down below with both Japanese iced coffee and ice cream that almost none of the competitors are talking about. These are lower on the totem pole of semantic importance, but it's still useful to know that my competitors aren't talking about them at all. All of this research is how you should know what should be included in your content brief. You can create a rough outline of the article you're going to write, from the questions you're going to answer to the subheadings you'll use, and down to the actual semantic topics that your target audience wants to read. Here's a rough content marketing brief draft from a previous article that our CEO Brad Smith wrote at this exact point in time in researching before writing the full outline. Alright, so you've done some preliminary research, you know more or less what people want to see, and you sort of understand how to create article structures for content briefs so they won't result in generic stuff that your competitors are already using. Now let's bring it up a notch. One-off content is fine, but publishing only a handful of pieces each month isn't going to put you over 7 or 8 figure monthly revenues. What you need is a scalable project. This means that you need to figure out how to create a content brief template that won't just apply for one piece, but hundreds at a single time. This is because of resource allocation. Cost per article comes down to time per article. Shaving off 20 minutes here or there across hundreds of articles each month leads to massive cost savings, and you can put that money back into your content production machine to out-acquire the competition. Let's look at finance examples because it's one of the most competitive spaces out there. Check out these two Investopedia article examples side by side. Check out the table of contents. Do you notice anything familiar about them? These are two different keywords, but largely the same article structure. This just became your definition or term content brief template structure. Simply rephrasing the same basic subheadings gives you flexibility for each term you're going to tackle, while also standardizing your content structure, which is a necessity to scale anything. Here's Exhibit A. Pause the screen and note it down if you want to. If you have this content brief template and the structure pretty much set, you can also standardize every other aspect of these articles, including the types of information, word count per section, semantic terms to include, images and visuals to use to illustrate, and the list goes on. Standardizing these elements also means it's easier to use additional creative assets for everything from images for your design brief, to video scripts for your on-air talent, to a social copywriting brief for your promoters. The cold hard money reasons for creating content brief templates like this is primarily to drive down your creative team costs. That is, both your hard writer cost per piece and soft costs related to editing, production, and more. At the same time, you're driving up output and quality. In other words, you get less expensive writers to produce more higher quality work, you increase consistency across all writers so that you can successfully go from a few of them to dozens, you reduce risk of content project investment not performing because you're ranking faster and better, and you speed up your QA and formatting internally since you remove inconsistency across different editors. We do this across hundreds of articles each month and across teams of writers each month for some of the biggest sites, and it's why we acquired and rebuilt Wordable to help scale content publishing and make it faster and easier for teams to do as well. So now let's walk through a real content brief example so you can see exactly how this works in real life. Step number 1, fight fights you can win with good keyword research. Good content briefs start with good keyword research. Don't bother aiming for keywords that are just too difficult for your site right now. Here's a tip. Based on your relative site strength, apply a volume minimum inside Ahrefs along with a keyword difficulty cap so you can zero in on related keywords that you can actually compete for in the next 6 months. Step number 2, base your content brief on search intent and point of view. I walked through this process earlier using Google and Market Muse. Many content optimization tools are starting to use human plus AI to help automate the content brief creation process. The most thorough at this point are probably Market Muse reports. It essentially recreates all the manual research we've done so far to lay out exactly how subheadings will look, along with semantic keywords for each section, and also internal and external links to include. The information is mostly legit and it results in less work for you or for your content strategist. It's amazing to have this level of detail done by machines. The bad part is that they tend to be overly prescriptive, which can lead to super formulaic content, which then results in generic copycat content. So use them for the most competitive keywords, but just be sure to still apply some human touch to add nuance and style before sending it out to your writers. Otherwise, here's how you can start bridging the gap of search engine research plus AI machines plus marketing know-how to arrive at a content brief template that looks like this. For the introduction, our team really likes to use the old PAS copywriting formula for each and every article angle. Spending the time to flesh out the pain and then agitate it will help the reader actually understand the importance of the solution. Step number 3, write out your content briefs to prep your content planning project. Content planning is the art and science of figuring out how you're going to scale a ton of revenue-generating content through systems, processes, and teams. It's different to content strategy. This is what our content planning sheet looks like. Let's focus in on columns 5 to 8 for our purposes of creating a content brief template. Number 5, content brief. This is the doc URL where we'll add content briefs for each piece or content templates that apply for multiple pieces. Number 6, video URL. If this is a new content template or style, we'd like to make sure we're including a quick overview Loom video so writers know the overall goals, objectives we're trying to hit, and any other relevant content. Number 7 is benchmark. These should be your example articles your writers can reference. These can be external examples that are the best SERP competitors you're targeting, or internal examples based on other similar blog post outlines that this post will follow. Number 8 is semantic keywords. If you're not providing writers with semantic keywords already specified inside each section of your content brief, try to provide them with an external list of these or through a writing link from ClearScope or Search for SEO or wherever. The writer should ideally know these before they ever start writing and then be able to cross-reference through the content creation part. Don't rely on editors to try and reverse engineer all of this work after the fact. So all in all, good content briefs help give your articles the structure needed to compete on crowded SERPs, and at the same time, they specify how writers can create something that's different enough to stand out so you can get some eyes on your content, clicks, as well as links. Make it easier on yourself by creating content brief templates for each type of article you do. That can literally be the difference between success and failure in the super competitive content marketing space. I hope you found this helpful. Shameless self-promo, but our team has been working super hard on building out Wordable and making it super fast and easy for teams to publish content to their CMS. It takes the content publishing time down from 1 hour to 1 minute and takes away all the annoying manual stuff you normally would have to do, like opening all links in a new tab and formatting and all that other stuff. You can try it out with your first 3 exports free by following the link in the description or going to wordable.io.